Good morning. It is actually morning. It is Thursday, July 2nd, 2020, and the time is now 12:19 a.m. How fast time is going. I didn't realize it was this late. Yeah. I want to share with you some videos I found. And I'm really excited because, wow, history is really something. And the more history you learn about yourself, it gives such a liberating feeling. And I love it. And I embrace myself even more being a black person. I know now the term black has negative connotations. People want to say melanated, and that's fine too. But regardless, to be of the African diaspora, I think it's beautiful. The more I learn about my past as a whole, as a collective, the more empowered I feel, and the more I don't want to imitate or look like my enemies. So let me just share with you some stuff here. Well, I was watching Young Pharaoh, and you see on the screen here, and in this video by him, he shared this website, and as you see here, this something on that there was children found in underground, like you see here, so in Central Park in New York City. And I said, let me check this out. Is this for real? Okay. So I said, let me just check it out. See if it's legitimate site. So I'll show you another tab. So then, like I went to Google, then I typed in the sentence, over 35,000 malnourished, and then press return, and then I got this list, and it's before it's news, and so then I had clicked on that first link right there, okay, and then I got this, okay, so this is the site that he got it from. Okay, let me read it. Well, let's see. It says read the before it's news.com, and this story, I guess, is by Judy Byington. Okay, this first time I'm hearing this this news outlet, and the date of it is Thursday, April 9, 2020. So that's relatively recent because it's now July. Okay, so the title, over 35,000 malnourished, caged children rescued out of U.S. tunnels by military. Now this is something, now why wouldn't we get this news? So let me read it to you. Over 35,000 malnourished, caged, and tortured children have been reported rescued or found deceased in the underground tunnels beneath large U.S. cities, including one beneath New York Central Park, with more coming, according to reporter Timothy Charles Holmseth of the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force on 3 April. Wow. Why didn't that make big news? That's important. See, again, what happened around that time? Well, didn't they start the virus scare in March, around March 19, March 16 of 2020, and this is April 3? So it's just a couple of weeks, and I'm sure that they have to plan getting these people out. I don't know how they found out about this, but you know what I'm saying, that before you implement something, you have to make plans, try to figure out how you're going to do this, because maybe you want to be on the hush hush about it. Someone might have alerted certain people, but they don't want to so-called frighten people. New Yorkers, right? And they want maybe they want to be hush hush because maybe these kids, like Pizzagate. So you want to get to the kids before they can be interviewed and give names of maybe influential government people, intellectuals, Hollywood, etc. So it's on a hush hush. So either way, let me continue. Traumatized children, some of whom have never seen the light of day, pregnant preteens. Oh my God. So that's pedophilia, preteens, deformed babies, piles of little corpses whose bodies were apparently used for organ harvesting, children locked in cages, electroshocked and traumatized in order to harvest their blood, adrenochrome for the elites to drink, were being carried out of the tunnels by Marines. Apparently, for months, a secret U.S. military operation has been sweeping an extensive network of underground tunnels across the U.S. and into Canada and Mexico to rescue thousands of horrified, abused children. Recent operations centered beneath major cities in New York, California, Florida, and Washington. Intel video on tunnels. Okay. Now, one of them I had clicked. One of the links I clicked, and then it said that you're leaving the site. Let me see if this was the same link. I forget. Let me just see what happens. One of the links I pressed said that you're leaving this site, and we cannot guarantee what's going to be on the other side. Now, why have a link and then tell that to people? But let me just click on it to see what happens. Okay, yes, see that? You are now leaving before it's news. We aren't responsible for any content or security on this site. You are about to visit. Please visit carefully. Okay. Now, I'm not going to click on that. I don't want to risk it. Okay, let me see anything else. Yeah, let's see. Okay. Then it says down here, a 69-year-old nurse working with coronavirus something else is clicking my head. Let me read on. Coronavirus medical unit in New York Central Park reported that they were treating severely traumatized and abused children rescued from tunnels beneath New York City. She said that the rescue operation was using the Navy medical ship sitting in the New York harbor. Very interesting. Yeah, I remember now. I had clicked on this link and it said the same thing. You're leaving our site and you're going into somebody else's site, basic at your own risk. Okay. Yeah, I remember with the virus scare that this ship did pull in. I think it was a military ship, and it was on the Hudson River side. That's on the west side of Manhattan Island. Okay, and I went to visit when I heard about it. Went to Central Park. I don't know where it was located. I thought it was going to be at this one particular location when you first enter the park on the west side, since that ship is on the west side. Okay, so you just walk over. But I did not see it, and so I just assumed maybe it was on the east side, or further east on Central Park. But either way, wherever where that they set up like a medical, like a triage right inside Central Park. They had like tents and everything, and that was supposed to be for the coronavirus. Everybody else, if you didn't have corona, you can't go in there. So it seems like maybe that was a front, because I don't know if anyone who was sent to Central Park to be treated there. But it's interesting. Okay, you have a tent city, medical triage center, or I shouldn't call it triage, but a place for people to be treated for coronavirus. But then again, you have the military rescuing children in underground tunnels in Central Park, and to send them here. Now interesting again. Why would you send traumatized children to this coronavirus treatment area? Because it's supposed to be contagious. So you're going to take sick people, sick children, and put them next to people with coronavirus. Something's up, people. Well, anyway, that was just a thought that came into my mind. It's not making sense. This information is new to me. And sometimes when I'm seeing new material and as I read it out loud to you guys, thoughts come into my mind, logic. Okay, so is this coronavirus thing really to cover for these children that are missing? That are being found under the city? So you give a scare, say you can't come out, only, who did they say they can go out? Essential people, that's transit and all that. But outside of that, and of course medical and grocery stores. So everybody else has to stay inside, right? I had gone out during that time, the peak, like from March to, May? I was out. I was walking my dogs and just kind of, seeing what's going on. And it was very, very quiet, the city. And I showed videos. See, I do these videos also when I go outside and take pictures. It's to really give like a history, like a diary. What's going on during certain times, so that like in the future, if people need to refer to what was going on during a particular season, so to speak, they'll be able to find my videos. They'll be able to see what stores are up, what people were out there, etc. It gives you a feel of what's going on. And it was very quiet. But for something like this to occur, thousands of children and little kids that are pregnant preteens, deformed babies, it sounds very, very weird. That is a major, major news. If it's true, again, this is the first time I'm finding this website, and anyone could put anything down on paper or on a website, but that's what this says. Okay, so it's really interesting what's going on. What's really going on? Is this coronavirus really about covering up the human trafficking of women and children. You know, is this what it really is? And yes, you had people who got sick. And you know what else? When people are afraid, they may be more careless with their habits because of fear, and they're not thinking. And stress can make anyone sick, especially if you're elderly, right? Isn't in the beginning with the virus scare that who was dying were the elderly, people in nursing homes. They primarily were the bulk of the people who were initially dying like flies. So now they're stuck where they live, breathing in the same stale air, and then they can't get visitors. They wither away, and then they just blame it on coronavirus. Okay? It's summer now. I mean, summer is approaching, and the weather is hot. And I was told that the virus cannot survive like past 80-degree weather. You know, it's hot. It's very, very hot outside. So how are these viruses able to survive hot weather? Right? And again, you know, flu season is pretty much up. So how could it spread? If it's a normal phenomenon, like any cold flu, it has its peak and then boom. Or is this a bioweapon? A bioweapon being sent out that will force all the states to stay indoors. And while they're indoors, look what's happening. You know, what they said about the military. Where did it say that now? Oh, where did it go? Yeah, okay, down here. Were being carried out by the tunnels by Marines. So if you're going to have a big plan, you know, a big rescue, and you want to hide those kids, you don't want them to be interviewed by the news reporters and things like that. So you got to be on the hush hush about it, make up something, and force the people to be indoors. Okay, it's just something that I thought that came in my mind. Okay, then look at this now. Okay. Well, when I after reading that, I said, let me just check what's on the internet about any children found. So as you can see here, children found in underground tunnels in Central Park. That's what I typed in, because I thought, hey, if this is real news, let me see what this thing might have said. Okay, so what did I put in here? Let's see, I think, let me just put it to the beginning. Okay, this was interesting. Sorry, I'm having some problems here. Okay. Go back a little bit.
An iconic part of New York City, a piece of nature tucked inside Manhattan. If you've lived in New York or even visited, you've probably been here.
But there's a part of this land story that visitors will never see.
It's the story of what was here before the park and the community that was destroyed to make way for it. In the 1820s, New York City looked like this. Most people lived in this area, Lower Manhattan. Pretty much everything above it was yet to be settled. In this map, you can see how different the geography was. These little lines illustrate what used to be hills in Manhattan. This was the countryside. Downtown was the opposite. Lower Manhattan was dense and crowded. A few small neighborhoods were home to many of the city's poor whites and immigrants, and also to much of its black population. This document shows the number of slaves in New York State. You can see how it went down gradually, from 20,000 in 1800 to 10,000 in 1820, and finally to just 75 in 1830. That's because in New York, slavery wasn't abolished all at once. Instead, it was ended over about 30 years. And as more free black people joined the workforce, racial tensions rose.
The people who were enslaved were now in competition with people coming over for jobs.
That tension led to violence, and Lower Manhattan became increasingly dangerous for free black people. Then, in 1825, plots of land started to go up for sale here, uptown. It was a way out. A black man named Andrew Williams decided to buy 3 lots.
You know, word gets out, black people seeing other black people and saying, oh, there's a little bit of a community developing here, maybe we can just fold into this community. So they start to move in.
After Williams, more lots filled up with black families and churches.
And it was here, between 82nd and 89th Street, that the community of Seneca Village was born.
Moving up to Seneca Village offered black families an affordable, safe place. It also gave them the chance to vote. Black men could only vote in New York if they owned property. Over the course of the next 3 decades, the community grew to nearly 300 residents. Records from the census show that they were laborers, domestic workers, waiters, and shoemakers. And they built dozens of homes, 3 churches, and a school for black students. Later, when Irish and German immigrants started moving into Seneca Village, it became unique for another reason.
It was an integrated community. It seems that people of all ethnicities were...
I just put on pause. Now what that's reminding me of, so here, you have black people who were being bullied off where they were living. Again, these were people, former slaves, or I should say, people who were enslaved. And now they want to work. And when you do so, when you assert yourself, you are ganged up on by other people, other whites in particular. So you say, okay, I'll move. And they moved far away. You saw how far from lower Manhattan to 82nd Street. That is it's a couple of miles away. So then what happened? Then, what do you call it? Gentrification. You get 2 other groups. See that? 2 against 1. But it gets better. This is what happens.
Are likely getting along based on the church records that were here.
Among the documents are evidence that some white and black families attended baptisms together, were buried next to each other in the same cemetery, and intermarried.
The people who lived in this area were individuals who were trying to find a new way of life.
Over the next 3 decades, the population of New York City nearly quadrupled. Lower Manhattan could no longer hold everyone. The city's white elite were worried that the entire island would be consumed by development. They said it called for the necessity...
Well, I had to put it on pause. I'm sorry. Now, why these rich elite, what do they care about the growth? I mean, isn't prosperity built upon population? But it gets better.
Of a city park to give lungs to the city.
This came out of the elite being able to start to travel to Europe, and they see the Champs-Elysees and they see Kensington Park, and they think that the city deserves to have a park of that stature.
On July 21st, 1853, New York set aside 750 acres of land to create America's first major landscaped public park, the Central Park. But the proposed area for the park included Seneca Village, along with thousands of other lots of land, home to about 1,600 people. In order to facilitate the park's development, the city's newspapers started to downplay who really lived there.
They really described these people as living in shanties and shacks. People of debased cultures were living off the land.
Okay. Squatters village. Isn't this another way to say that these were people, a ghetto? Isn't it horrible? Doesn't these terms sound familiar? These weren't people listening to hip hop radio. They didn't have their pants dragging on the floor, you know, the buttocks exposed. These were professionals, workers, like any other community.
But that wasn't true. In 2011, Cynthia and a team of archaeologists excavated in the former Seneca Village site. They came away with 250 bags of objects to analyze, which now live here in New York City's archaeological repository. These objects suggest that Seneca Village was wealthier than many assumed.
When we compare the objects from the homes of the people in Seneca Village with artifacts from Greenwich Village, an elite upper middle class neighborhood, in some cases they were using the same kind of ironstone plate within what was called the Gothic pattern.
Quite a few pieces of porcelain in Seneca Village, and porcelain was an expensive ware.
They also found other objects like a comb, a smoking pipe, roasting pan, and part of a toothbrush that probably didn't belong to poor people.
Toothbrushes were not common among the working class as well as the middle class until around 1920.
And the artifacts themselves were only one part of their analysis.
For example, from the census records from 1855, we know that there was a very high level of education.
Getting a high school education was clearly an important factor in the community, and that's very much a part of middle class identity.
The findings indicate that Seneca Village wasn't a shanty town. It was a working and middle class community, a growing neighborhood of Black property owners, and an experiment in integration. But to the white New York elite of 1856, it wasn't worth saving. A July 1856 article in the New York Times referred to it with a slur.
Oh,
The
wow.
Ebon inhabitants, after whom the village is called, have been notified to remove by the 1st of August. Many residents fought to keep their land by filing objections to their forced removal, but Seneca Village, along with the other settlements on the land for Central Park, was seized and destroyed. In their place, the city made pathways, built bridges and arches, and planted thousands of trees. Central Park was done, and Seneca Village was gone forever.
We can't imagine New York City without Central Park, but I'm finally grateful that the recognition of the pre-park history has emerged.
Okay. What does that theme remind you of? That you had a thriving community, but it's taken away. And the excuse was, well, the elite said, we want to form a park because we want to look like Europe. Okay? So it sounds like, it reminds me of Black Wall Street. Remember that? Remember what happened in Black Wall Street? The pretense for the demise of this town in Oklahoma was of a young black man going on an elevator and had allegedly tried to assault the operator of that elevator, which was a white female. He was arrested, and the black community, yes, the black community back then, it was close to 100 years ago. Blacks back then stood together. They stood together. And his friend came with a weapon to get his friend out. And, what happened after that? Well, to make a long story short, the U.S. government had firebombed because of that one man who allegedly touched a female in the elevator. They had firebombed that whole community where this man lived. I think over 300 people died. Yeah. And their land was destroyed by the firebombs. That they used planes. And then they dropped these balls of fire on top of this community, innocent community. And then they were forced out. And then they put in a highway through their community. And Obama didn't recognize that fact, and did not give those poor people the reparations. They never got reimbursed for their land lost. Nothing. And you still have survivors of that horrible incident. And nothing's, once all the people die of that era, they don't have to give any reparations. So here, it shows the trend of America, even back in the 1800s. And again, slavery was becoming abolished in the northern states, as you heard. And even though they lived like good citizens, they weren't treated like good citizens. They were name called. And then the white elite had confiscated it. Okay, let me show you what's on this one. Okay, yeah, and this then, I was thinking about that thing with the African burial ground. This is just to show again that blacks have a history in New York City. And it was, again, just a reminder that you had blacks started out, I should say, when the Europeans invaded the Americas and what we know now as Manhattan Island, or New Amsterdam, the blacks who were kidnapped and then forced into slavery, they lived, or all of them lived, in downtown Manhattan, lower Manhattan. And there was things that happened. And I just wanted to share this video with you. So this part, they're going to talk about the people, how it developed and what happened.
In the summer of 1991, an unexpected and remarkable discovery deep beneath Manhattan's streets offered a new chance to reclaim some of this lost history.
There is references to the area in terms of black cemetery, but I didn't know what that meant. I assumed that there was a cemetery that apparently was in what was the then southern part of the Collect, which was in fact the freshwater pond that was there at the outset back in the 16th, 17th century. I kept thinking, I wonder what they're going to find.
On the architectural drawing board, a 34-story federal office building was being planned.
I also have to note that during this time, when they were digging downtown Manhattan, this happened around 1991, and President Bill Clinton was president during this time, and they were to build the federal buildings, a very tall building, and to do anything in downtown Manhattan, because that's where the earlier settlers were, and you have a lot of burial grounds and a lot of historical stuff, because that's where it was a very condensed cities down there. Okay, so you need permission to dig anywhere. Okay, but they dug anywhere. Anyway, let me proceed.
It was to be built on land purchased from the city of New York by the United States government.
When did we know about the Negro burial ground, as it is called in the old papers. In the environmental impact statement, which the government is required to do, they turned up a map that showed the existence of the, quote, Negro burial ground. And the map clearly showed that the burial ground extended, not only covered the site of the 290 Broadway building, but extended for many blocks. The feeling, however, was, and there were many references to this in the documentation, that while the cemetery had existed, that it was no more in existence.
When test excavations were begun, we were hopeful that we might find some remains from the burial ground, but we weren't particularly optimistic. Every single lot within that block had had a building built on it in the 19th or 20th century. When you looked at it, your initial reaction was there can't possibly be anything left.
Archaeological testing for remains or evidence of the burial ground continued at the site through the summer of 1991. As the summer neared an end, no conclusive evidence of the burial ground had been found, but one location showed promise.
The very corner of an alley that existed on the lot called Republican Alley, that had always been an alley ever since it was first developed in the late 18th century. We knew no buildings had ever stood on that alley, so we thought that would be a good place to start.
And there we thought there may be 1, 2, or 3 graves. The government never foresaw the amount of skeletons that would be found there. And it is very important for us to understand that had we foreseen this, we perhaps would have taken a different course of action.
Early in October of 1991 came first word of a discovery to the public. Within days, the official announcement was made. 11 bodies had been found.
From Fox 5, this is the 10 o'clock news.
It's a graveyard right in the heart of downtown, and it's already surprising some historians. Jeff Weiser has more in this exclusive report.
Yeah, I'm going to pause on that. So, yeah, because it's a long video, but I just wanted to show you that they know where we live, but they still build on top of it. And they did build the building, the federal building, by it. It's a sacred ground. It's a burial ground, but yet all these federal and government buildings disrespect us again and build upon us. But they don't have these buildings in white burial grounds. Just food for thought. And then my last question, I want to hurry since I'm losing space on my computer, so it just prompted up, so I gotta hurry. Well, my last question I asked myself regarding this Seneca Village, whatever happened to the people in Upper Manhattan? Whatever happened to them? So as you see here, I found this website, and it said, in yellow, they highlighted this, I didn't do that. It says, ultimately, all residents had to leave by the end of 1857. Research is underway to determine where Seneca Village residents relocated. Some may have gone to other African American communities in region, such as Sandy Ground in Staten Island and Skunk Hollow in New York. So this is really interesting, as you see here. So no one really knows where they went. So you have a civilization, a town, a prosperous black town, and again, the government and rich whites said, we're not having it, and destroyed their livelihood. So this is just a wake-up call that you do have some blacks living in the United States who want to start their own location. So you could lawfully purchase land, have a thriving community, and when you start to get too thriving, oh, we want to do a development there. Oh, we want a nice park like those Europeans. You're going to push people off your land for a park. It's really horrible. This is social engineering, and it's just designed to harm us. So, again, I'm not going to stay long. So this is just food for thought, and to teach your children, no matter where you live, these are some of the things that happen to us. Use this as like a badge of pride you should have, because see, you're a people of true excellence. When you're given the opportunity, the chance to have your own, we can do it. We can do it, and we can do it well. But what we don't have well is weaponry, things to protect ourselves from our enemies. We have to somehow learn ways how we can truly protect ourselves, so that when we do start community for ourselves, that when outsiders and jealous people come around, we'll be able to stand our ground. So I thank you again for listening, and this is just food for thought. Yes, teach your children local history. We never learned this in school. I'm born and raised here in New York City, and we've never learned local history. And those of you who are watching this video who live in New York City, demand the school curriculum teach local history. This is American history. It's not just Black history. It's American history that has Black people and what has been done. And each time when we set community, we are divided up and strewn all over the place. No one really knows what happened to these people. Someone knows. So maybe someone could research that. Whatever happened to those people who were forced off this property? Thank you again for watching. And those of you who like this, give me a thumbs up. Share this video with friends, family members. You could subscribe to my channel, Spirit Journey. And those of you who want to support me, you can do so by donating to my PayPal me account. And to do that, on my channel, Spirit Journey, on the right side of the banner is my PayPal me link. Just click on it and follow the prompt. Any amount would be appreciated. I thank you in advance. Peace, love, and joy. Bye-bye. Be proud, Black people. You're worth it. And you are a diamond in the rough, a pure diamond in the rough. Thank you again. Bye-bye.